if I can see anything with the bridesmaids, I'll take care of it so the bride doesn't have to. If I see crazy drama going on, I will throw myself on the grenade of that person's adult tantrum so that the bride does not have to deal with it.
Wow, you do that.
Oh, absolutely. But the result is that she's
that's
happy
really
in her
great.
pictures.
Well, Welcome to the Red, Green, Blue podcast.
Hello, I'm here with Pepper Nix, who is one of the best wedding photographers in the state. She's won Best in State 7 times, which is incredible, and has photographed for pretty much everybody prominent you can imagine.
Thank you, Mark.
There you go. Yeah, well, it's true. But by far the most successful wedding photographer I know. And we're going to talk a little bit about her first camera and other things about portrait photography and wedding photography. I think this is a very significant interview because, like, relative to any other field of photography, by like numbers of portraits taken, number of photographs taken, and amount of money paid, portrait wedding is by far the largest field. It's almost bigger than every other area of photography combined. You know, because lots of people get married and lots of people get portraits taken. So this is a very real, viable area of photography that a lot of people participate in. And I think there'll be a lot of interest in this podcast because of that. So Pepper, to start out, what was your first camera?
The Canon AE1. Like, I still remember it.
So how did you get the Canon AE1?
I applied to be a yearbook photographer. I was desperately attempting to fit into some kind of group in high school and met a yearbook photographer who said, oh yeah, you know, that's where it is because everyone's got to be nice to you and smile at you. I'm like, okay, great. So I applied. They liked my personality, got accepted. And then I needed a camera because I didn't have one or know how to work it. My mom's friend heard that I had been accepted and just gave this old camera she had. This was 1993.
Oh, it's not a bad camera to give to somebody in 1993.
Well, considering that it was already, 25 years old, I think it was great. I do remember using it the first time. I didn't read the manual. I just grabbed it and I'll figure it out and couldn't understand why my pictures weren't in focus. And
it's like, wait a minute.
I had to figure out how to, focus ring. Oh, look at that. But that was my very first camera, Canon AE1.
Well, and also back then, I mean, you didn't know what pictures you were getting. I mean, it's something we just take for granted now.
Absolutely.
But like you would get like develop a roll of film and be like, oh, I completely did that whole roll wrong.
Yep.
Like I rated the wrong ISO. And so I got like basically photographed nothing. Like, and especially like you're so serious when you're beginning, like my roll of film, I'm going to go do it. You work for like 2 hours shooting that roll of film. You get it back like nothing. Because I had it rated at 800 ISO. But that's...
And I'm laughing because, of course, been there, done that.
Yeah, no, I think we all have. Even like when I was very early in my career, I shot some weddings. And I remember once just kind of like shooting and then open my camera and be like, oh, I don't have any film. Just quietly like loading film in. Just kept shooting. But yeah, that's a good time. So what do you think is like the hardest thing about your job you do right now?
As a wedding photographer?
As a wedding photographer. Even running your business as a wedding photographer.
Managing personalities.
Like on the wedding end?
On the wedding day. There's just a lot of, this is actually going to sound very strange. I read more books about personality disorders than anything else. And that alone has helped me so much on the wedding day because the bride and groom are wonderful people, but maybe they've got a weird sister who does this, or they've got an uncle who's on drugs. And it is very interesting. I actually end up seeing things happen before other people will, just because I'm always looking. And probably also because I'm very sober at weddings, but yeah.
Well, it's funny. I guess the wedding photographer kind of becomes the de facto master of ceremonies, I feel. And kind of like by extension, the therapist of the wedding. Because you have to make sure everything keeps moving forward.
Absolutely.
Like one event to the next. And you're the person who's at all of them. Whereas everyone else, except for the bride or groom, drop out. And they're just they're, of course, the center of it. So
exactly. Well, and keep in mind, I mean, shooting a wedding for a client who is the bride and she wants to have that one perfect day is not the same as shooting an event for a magazine where they say, no, you want to just be hands off, just document it as it is. She actually does not want that. I did that for many years, and I had brides who would not be happy. Why do you have all these pictures of me being upset with my bridesmaids? Well, because that's what you did, is you yelled at your bridesmaids. Why does the room look so messy? Well, because the room was a complete mess. And so it turns out that wedding photography is not reality. They want those gilded memories of the best possible world. And so now, instead of letting there be a plate of half-eaten food out because that's where somebody left it, I will go through and clean up a room before I start to shoot it. And if I can see anything with the bridesmaids, I'll take care of it so the bride doesn't have to. If I see crazy drama going on, I will throw myself on the grenade of that person's adult tantrum so that the bride does not have to deal with it.
Wow, you do that.
Oh, absolutely.
That's like, wow.
But the result is that she's
that's
happy
really
in her
great.
pictures.
Well, that's a good reason probably why you've been successful. I mean, because, yeah, that's amazing. Because, I mean, that's something I've never thought of. And that's like me, like the emotional chaos of a wedding. I actually really don't like going to weddings. I find them very stressful. I know they're supposed to be fun, but I just feel like they're stressful. And I think it's partially my experience early in my career as a wedding photographer, because I'm just like, oh gosh, when's someone going to start yelling at me? And then there's that after moment too. Like, I mean, the caterer can screw up, and then they're just like, in fact, I had my sister's wedding, like they all got food poisoning. Like
oh my gosh.
The whole wedding
my goodness
party.
gracious. Hold on.
It's like the worst thing, right? Like they spend all this money to do all this, and then the caterer gives them all food poisoning. See, the thing is, the caterer did that, and then it was just kind of like, never had to see them again. Didn't even have to see them when they were sick, quite frankly. But like the wedding photographer, you have to see them after.
Yes.
You know, like the relationship continues because they order prints and they want frames. And like you are the one who's there, like even after the honeymoon, like even when they're just regularly married, the only person from the wedding. And yeah, so they get upset at you. Like if anything went wrong in the wedding, it's your fault because you're the only vendor who's still around.
That's true. That's true. But here's the fun thing.
Okay, the fun thing.
I turn that around because usually they're not going to get upset with me if I am, as you called it, the therapist. So tell me what you loved about your wedding day and what you hated. And boy, they're going to talk about how wonderful the flowers were, how happy they were, and how totally pissed off they were at that caterer for giving them food poisoning. And they're going to talk about it and talk about it. And I got to tell you, I love listening to people. So this is for my personality, it's a really good fit.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah, people aren't upset with me. I hear these horrible stories about someone who doesn't like their wedding photographer. They had a bad experience with their wedding photographer. And it really makes me very sad because it is a special day, and being able to be there, to be so close to someone and document that. I mean, I think about, and I'm going to butcher his name, but I think it's Pete Sousa. You know, he's the White House photographer. He's there in all these very intimate moments, and being able to be there with somebody and experience these moments, it's a privilege. And I don't know if you are not loving every moment of being in weddings, then yeah, don't do it. Because you've talked to, I'm sure, lots of people who have weird experiences about their photographers. Oh, the photographer did this, you know, just, oh man, like how, you know, that's not a good thing.
No, it's true.
That would be like if the photographer gave them food poisoning or the photography equivalent.
Oh yeah. No, I hear these stories. I mean, like if photographers being rude to brides, I was like, what? Why? They're paying you to be there. It's their wedding. I mean, it just doesn't make, it's like beyond doesn't make sense to me.
Exactly.
It's like, I mean, why would you be rude to anybody, let alone someone who's paying you to be there? It's like, just buck it up. That's what you signed up for. What's your favorite thing about a wedding? Maybe you already addressed that, but I mean, it is a really special moment. It's like a lot of energy. It's like two families coming together. It's exciting.
My absolute favorite moment is one that like no one else gets to see. It's one I get to see. What I've discovered is that if you take the traditional timeline of here's a ceremony, we're going to have the ceremony and then do family pictures and go into dinner, everything gets very compressed and it can get very stressful because there's not enough time. And so what I do is I take all of the family photos, the group photos and portraits of the bride and groom before the ceremony, hours before the ceremony. So my schedule, actually, the package I do, it's a 10-hour package, and with the ceremony as the midpoint. So if you have a 5 p.m. ceremony, I'll be there at noon and I'll stay till 10 p.m. And so my favorite moment is when I get a bride and groom and I set them up for what I call a first look. And he gets to turn around and see her for the very first time. And I get to see that happen. And no one else is there. It's just me and the bride and groom and maybe the videographer if they have a videographer. But that is so magical. And being able to see the love that this man has for this woman and the love that this woman has for this man, or actually this is the best part now is, the love that they have for each other. If it's a gay wedding, but it's real. It is something that is very human. And I feel so privileged to be there at that moment because it's just us.
Yeah, well, and to document it. I mean, that's another thing. To me, that's an amazing thing about a lot of photographs I've taken that are not portraits of family members or people's weddings or things like that. I really wonder if it has any value. I mean, it can win a bunch of awards, it can hang in museums, but you still wonder. But when you photograph somebody's wedding, that was really important. And those photographs are some of the most important photographs to those people they'll have in their entire life. And that's a real special service to give to people. The other element of wedding photography is every other vendors, the flowers will die, the food is consumed, everything else goes. But the photographs are the only thing that last forever with it.
Absolutely.
And so that's that's one of the joys of photography in general, but wedding photography in particular. So what's your favorite wedding you've ever shot? Do you have one that comes to mind? Probably so many at this point.
This is the sad thing. I get asked this question a lot.
Yeah.
And pretty much, this sounds so cliche. At pretty much every single wedding, I have this amazing, wonderful moment. And so my favorite wedding is the one I just shot.
The one you just did.
The one I just barely did. And
that's a really good response.
But every single wedding typically will have a moment like that where you fall in love with something. Maybe it's not even the couple. I might fall in love with the bride's grandmother, who just was the cutest person ever. I might fall in love with the flower girl. Who knows? I might fall in love with that random guest, who just did a really bang up job and helped everyone and pitched in. And there's just always something to find in love. So I'm sorry, I really don't have a favorite because they really all are.
You like them all?
Yeah.
I shot a Star Wars themed wedding.
See how freaking cool is that?
Yeah, no, that was it's funny because at the time I was I don't know about this, but in retrospect, I'm that was by far the most interesting thing. I should say for the record, I've shot 5 weddings. So it's not a thing I do. But
the fact that you shot 5 and one of them was a Star Wars wedding, that is amazing.
Gosh, in fact, every single wedding I shot is a traumatic experience of one way or another. I think that's why. That was a fun one. At least nobody was
Well, here's the flip side is that every wedding will also have, for me, it's low point. And I learned a very long time ago that if I start collecting those low points and learning from them and figuring out how to prevent them, then they won't happen again.
Yeah, because you have the most wedding experience you're the MC, and you've been through more weddings than anybody else on the planet, right? This is maybe the bride's first, third, but you have been through hundreds of them.
I have done this, and actually that's how I talk to brides. You can do it however you want to. However, I've shot 650 weddings. Here's what I see what works. Here's what doesn't work and why. Having said that, you can make your own decision because you're the bride.
Yeah, my advice would be if you're going to have an RTD2, have more at the entrance, not necessarily part of the line. It's kind of fun to have at the entrance, but part of the line is kind of creepy. So, but what's your most awkward wedding moment you've had?
Oh,
and how did you diffuse it? I guess that's the next thing.
Well, let's see. So this is just a philosophy that I have, which I understand is probably not correct. Kind of like that fallacy of, you wouldn't hit somebody with glasses, right? And I'm just thinking, well, no one's going to hit somebody who's only, 5'3" with all smiles. If there's a fight, I throw myself in the middle of it. Like
an actual fist fight?
Yeah.
Like that? That's happened?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I hug one person.
Hug one of the fights?
Yeah, just hug them. Well, they're not going to hit me.
No, of course not.
They're just not. And whoever is hitting them isn't going to hit the other person because they might hit me. Again, this is
Is this part of the package?
I am.
Like
I
breaking
am.
up fights? Or is it like an add-on?
Hopefully, like it doesn't have to happen.
You haven't found a way to monetize.
Exactly. And I would not actually recommend people doing this because when I say it out loud, it sounds asinine. But it's just my instinct. When something's going on, I immediately throw myself in the middle of it. And it de-escalates for at least a couple seconds where other people can, come help get rid of things.
Yeah, Uncle Joe can show up or somebody.
Well, usually Uncle Joe's the problem.
Uncle Joe's the problem. No, I can believe it.
But I did, my most awkward moment at a wedding ever was, there was a groom. I'm sure he's a lovely person, but he takes a lot of medication to help correct some issues that he has. And on his wedding day, he opted to not take any of this medication. And he just kept doing this thing where he was like, literally like blowing raspberries. You know what that is? Like he just do it. Just doing this. Like I'm trying to take pictures. And then also like kind of hitting his wife. Like they've been married for, I know, right? Like just like doing this thing in the arm, but it was
a little bit more than playful.
Oh, it was not funny at all.
Gosh.
And eventually I went and I just put my hands on top of his and I was like, Kyle, I need you to stop doing this. Like, is there any way that you can stop doing this? And his reaction was then to grab my wrists and not let go. And basically taunt me and say, what are you going to do about it, photographer? What are you going to, And I've never felt so uncomfortable. That was a really rough wedding for me to complete. Thankfully, there was a videographer there. And I was able to communicate anything I needed, using his help. But I was glad the videographer was, I've never encountered anything like that. And it also kind of led me on my search to, I need to find out a lot more about personality disorders and other things where this might arise again so that I can handle that with much more smoothness than I did.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do think that's a great idea. I mean, when you're teaching wedding photography, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I really encourage people to do it because there's especially like, to me, the most difficult thing about wedding photography is obtaining clients because like this is a business model thing, but it's like once you obtain a client, you want them to be like repeat business people. Absolutely. They want them to come back again and again, but people get married once. So you're really depending on referrals for that repetition. But you can start by just photographing your friend's wedding.
Absolutely.
And that's where most people generally start. And they can make some money with their photographs. Whereas there's virtually no other way like you can start making money so early. I mean, like if you want to, shoot for Vogue, like you're looking like 10 years assisting before you make a dime actually from your photography. So that's really great. Well, we keep on, what am I doing? Maybe like we keep talking about the horror stories of weddings.
Oh, trust me, that's the fun part about like talking about these things.
Yeah. Oh gosh. But, yeah. I've always thought there should be a romantic comedy centered around a wedding photographer.
That is a brilliant idea.
There's like wedding planners, there's wedding singers, but there's no wedding photographer. So why do you think, like, how did you get into the field of wedding photography? Like, in a way, I mean, how did you get in?
I went from yearbook photographer to college newspaper photographer. And I had a friend who said, would you shoot my wedding? This was my actual quote. No, weddings are for sucks. I don't know what a suck is. I just know that it came out of my mouth. And actually it was motivated entirely by fear because I didn't know how to shoot a wedding at all. And he came over to my house again, this time with his fiance, and said, look, we traveled to the Middle East with you. We've seen the pictures that you took while we were there. We love these pictures. Please, 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 would you take our wedding photos in the same style that you did this trip to the Middle East? And I vaguely remember like them getting on their knees or something. It was very funny, but how do you turn that down? So I said, yes, I would shoot your wedding. And I charged them the astronomical fee of $150 to shoot their wedding.
That's extremely low, if you don't know. But at the time, you're probably like, wow, I'm actually going to get paid to do this.
I know, right?
That's amazing.
$150. And I think I got maybe 2 hours of sleep the night before. I was so nervous.
Yeah.
And I did. I shot their wedding. It was a wedding at the Salt Lake LDS Temple. And then it was had luncheon and then a reception that evening. And I got to tell you, I mean, that wedding was 18 years ago, and I still look back at these pictures and I'm proud of the work I did.
Wow, that's really amazing.
I mean, I shot, it was all film, mostly black and white. And not only that, but I ended up taking these photos and like printing them by hand and, doing all the darkroom.
Wow.
It was incredible. In fact, this couple contacted me on Facebook and they're like, "Hey, Pepper, this is like last year, but they're like 17 years and counting. They live in Prague now. They've got 7 children and they're both getting PhDs and they're really incredible people." But yeah, that was my very first wedding. That's why I got started. It was really fun. And then I had a friend, I was, lamenting the fact that I didn't have enough money for both ramen and photo paper. And he said, "Look, why don't you did this one wedding, like you can just get more weddings. And if you make $200 a month shooting one wedding, then you don't have to work at, Wendy's or whatever." It was.
Oh yeah.
And I thought,
wedding photography beats the heck out of working at Wendy's.
That's what I thought.
Well, yeah.
So that was my entire goal. Hey, I could get through college, and if I can get one wedding a month, then I don't have to work fast food while I'm in college.
That's
Not
good.
that there's anything wrong with working in fast food, but this was a way to make more money in less time.
No, it definitely is. And it's more compressed and you can control it and you can grow it. Once again, like wedding is, because it's such a large market, like you can grow a lot.
Absolutely.
Because really the sky's the limit. So after you finished school, when did you feel like your photography went from being just kind of like you on the weekends, something like, well, this is my career and this is what I'm going to do. This is a business. I have a business.
I have all these crazy stories. Like, this is very interesting. You have all these questions. I'm like, well, there's a story behind that. I was in college and I was desperately trying to decide exactly which discipline I should do. I've always wanted to be a National Geographic photographer or White House press corps. I don't know, something that I thought was very important that would contribute back to the human race. And I shot, maybe 5 or 6 weddings, and it was so much fun. It was so much more fun than being called out by the newspaper. Like, "Oh, there was an accident. Go get a picture of like someone sobbing their eyes out on the side of the road." And I understand if it bleeds, it leads. Everyone in the newspaper industry knows this, but I didn't get any joy out of it. And I just decided, you know what? I'm going to see if I can be a wedding photographer and be a really kick-ass wedding photographer. And if I decide that I don't want to do that discipline anymore, then I can always switch later on. And I went into the bathroom. This was on January 3rd, 2001. I flipped on the light and I looked in the mirror and I made a declaration. I just said, "I am a professional wedding photographer." That was it.
So you told yourself.
I told myself,
Well,
I declared that to the universe, to God. And I looked at myself and there was nothing magical. Nothing happened. But, turn off the light, went out. But I just made that declaration. But it was really interesting because after I did, I started thinking differently. Well, I said I was a professional. I'm a professional now. So instead of telling people, "Oh, I'm a student," or "I'm an amateur," I would start calling myself, "I'm a professional." Okay. And you know what? Professionals, they have business cards, not just, writing their email on a scrap of paper. So I got business cards. And, professional would probably dress up to go to this meeting instead of wearing sweatpants. Okay, I'll dress up. And, professional would have a better lens. Like, this lens kind of sucks. And just keeping that in mind, that I'm already a professional. It's not a goal to obtain. I'm there, but now that I'm here, I better not be a schlub. It profoundly changed my outlook on everything without me even realizing it. So that from the time I made that until the time I ended up dropping out of school 9 months later, I had built a business. I had 32 clients my very first year, which is huge for a wedding photographer.
Yeah, there's 52 weeks in a year. So,
absolutely.
Geez.
And
that's amazing.
From that day, I have been a professional wedding photographer.
That's fine. To me, like what your self-identity is. I've noticed with photography and filmmaking, people struggle with like taking on that identity because it's so high risk.
I do hear that there's always this, "Oh, I'm not a professional." Why not?
Why not? I mean, there's a lot of professionals who suck. I mean, no, really. It's like people think like they need to like obtain this certain level. But I mean, this is an epiphany I had. I was walking around museums and I always attend museums. I was kind of like, wow, these museums, when you see a solo show, like at the Museum of Modern Art or something, you're looking at like the pinnacle of somebody's career of the best on the planet. Like, this isn't like some just minor thing. Like, this is the biggest moment in their life. But really, there's a lot of garbage being made too. And so, like, there's kind of two ways to look at art. Like, and then I went through the galleries in the Chelsea Art District, and I was kind of like, oh, my work's kind of as good as this. This is kind of surprising to me. This isn't the stuff I see in the Museum of Modern Art, because of course that's absolute pinnacle and of course the stuff in the Chelsea Art District in New York is amazing. There's a lot of bad work. So it's kind of like two reasons to get into art. One is, man, that really inspired me. Salgado inspires me. I want to shoot like him. And then the other one is, boy, that stuff really sucks. That wedding photography really sucks. I can do better than that. And then you do it. And I think the second motivation is a lot better. Yeah. But owning that identity and just saying I'm a professional will change your whole outlook on how you approach things.
Absolutely.
So that's really great. It's really great that you did that. I've never heard anybody say like they had a conscious moment, like, and they just did it themselves. Like, in a way, like, you talking in the mirror was better than a degree in photography.
Oh, so much better.
It's so much better. Yeah. It was like, it's better than, it's just, you gave it to yourself. And that's really what it takes. So how do you connect with a bride during a wedding? Like, how do you build that relationship? Because that's something that I've always wondered about, because it's such an intimate moment, but you kind of don't know them at all.
Oh, that's not true.
Well, I mean, not relatively. I mean, when you're starting out, you shoot your friends, but maybe it's just somebody you met at a wedding fair, or I don't know. Well,
but even if you meet them in May and for their wedding in December, you still have 8 months to build a relationship.
Okay, so you do that. I do that. A relationship over time.
All my brides have my cell phone number. And I encourage them, text me anytime you want to with any question you might possibly have, even if it's just to bitch about how your mother is driving you crazy over the tablecloths. So
you give them your cell phone and you talk to them, you invite them to talk to you.
We become friends.
Yeah.
We do an engagement session, which is a portrait session of the bride and the groom prior to the wedding in not wedding clothes. So maybe something casual, maybe something formal. And before we shoot, I take them out to a bar and I proceed to get them intoxicated. So whatever they want to eat, whatever they want to drink, I don't care, because they're happy. And then we go out and we shoot, and we spend the whole time laughing. Whatever they have been telling me while we were eating and drinking. And again, I don't get to drink because
you have to think.
Well, I'm a lightweight, and unfortunately the pictures don't turn out as good. But then I get to be the designated driver anyway. So I'm driving them around town, up mountains and canyons. But we just have a great time together, just getting to know one another. They ask me about my life. I get to tell them about how I became a photographer, about my son, about, whatever else is going on in my life. I get to hear how they met, how he proposed, what he likes about her, what drives her crazy about him. I mean, whatever these guys have, like, everyone has their inside jokes. Everyone has the way that their relationship works. I have lots of couples who say, well, we've seen your pictures, but that's not us. I'm like, okay, really? Well, I completely will honor that. Let's go out and get some drinks and let's go see who you guys are. Guess what? Every single couple who's in love is in love in the same way, in that they don't care what other people think. They're happy together. I call it adorkable because they're just dorks. And they're intoxicated. And if you get that together, like, it's a magical combination.
Well, that's
and
great.
So, and they see those pictures and then they trust. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm building the relationship of trust. And by the time I get to the wedding day, everyone knows me. I heard you took them out to a bar and you got them drunk and then took pictures. I'm like, sure did. They're like, those pictures look awesome. Well, thank you. So it's not just the bride and groom, it's the families, it's the wedding party. When I walk in the door, there's a level of respect that's already there.
Wow.
The photographer's here. It's Pepper. Okay. All right.
That's funny. When I wrote that question, I was thinking, well, I do this, I say this, but really you put a lot of effort into it and you just spend the time to actually develop a relationship with them.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a sincere relationship.
There's no shortcut. And which is why I get Christmas cards for my brides. I get a lot of out of town couples, but they come into town. They're like, Pepper, we're in town. Come skiing with us. It's a fun thing. And if you look at my circle of friends, they're people I shot their wedding.
Really? So they shot their wedding and then they became a friend.
Yeah. Last year I went to Ecuador with, one of my brides. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I love what I do. And with most of my brides, I will get this incredible connection. am odd. I wake up very early in the morning. I go and take a picture of the sunrise. It's about, I don't know, 2 miles from my house. And then I send it to my brides. And I'm like, morning. And they're all on the East Coast. So it's okay that I'm sending a picture at 6 a.m. But yeah, I don't send it to the ones in California because they would get mad. I sent it to them in the afternoon. I'm like, look what I was doing at 6 a.m.
That is really great. Well, that's cool. Now you have like people who work with you. Can you just describe kind of the structure of your business?
Oh, absolutely. I lead a very charmed life in that I have this incredible team. It's set up differently in that I do not have employees. There is no, you work with me and you do this for me and you don't do anything else. Everyone who works with me is on contract, and I do everything in my power to help them build their business on their own in some way. So for example, the person who came on as my editor 8 years ago, and I trained her, this is exactly how I want my pictures to look. This is exactly what I want them to do. I have done everything I can to encourage her to grow her business so that she can have other people under her and take on other clients. And so she does. She now has a successful company called Pixel Whipped and does a lot of graphic design and photo editing for many, many clients. So she is a part of my team, but she's not my employee. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, I mean, she is successful in her own right.
She's like part of your posse.
She's totally part of my posse.
Like, quite literally, she's like your posse.
I mean, seriously, I love my posse. Like, they're just the most amazing team. One of my photographers, just an incredible photographer, also likes to do family and portraiture and pet photography. And I do everything I can to encourage her. If there is any piece of gear that you need specifically for these other ventures that you're working on, let me know. I'll provide that to you. I want her to be very successful. Anything with weddings, she does with me, but whatever she does on her own, I encourage that.
So how do you work with them? Like, do you shoot part of the wedding, or do some weddings they shoot completely on their own?
Oh, no,
like,
they do
shoot
it.
Second photographer, or how does it work?
They have their own brand and their own website. When a bride, calls Peppernicks Photographers and wants to know what her options are, these are the photographers, these are the rates, these are the different websites, and you can kind of get a feel for each photographer's personality. I don't want everyone to look just like me. Logan is her own person. Angela is her own person. And I like these very unique identities. And at the same time, there is a level of quality and service that will be there for every Peppernicks bride, regardless of which photographer you have.
Wow, so you're kind of functioning as an agent to a degree with them. I
guess so, yeah. I haven't thought of that analogy, but that would make sense.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. And that's one thing I think a big problem with photography is it's difficult to scale because you can only take so many photographs. Like, you can only do that. In like editorial, you scale by syndication. Like, it runs in like 100 newspapers across the world and will run for years in the future, like that picture of Richard Nixon or something, whatever it is you have in your catalog. So that's how you grow, you increase your income. But with wedding photography, it's more difficult. That's the way to scale, is to have other photographers work on your team, and then you can handle more weddings than you could physically possibly shoot.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely.
That's really great. And you found that way to grow your business. This is all really great. Jeez, you're doing such a good job.
Oh, thank you, Mark.
You interview amazingly. Oh, really? This is fantastic.
Well, I got to tell you that we are talking about my favorite subject, which is, of course, me. So
me, and weddings and your business. I've never met, this is so great because it's such a perfect match in field. That's one thing I noticed about photography is people, certain personalities end up in various fields of photography because unlike painting or sculpture, photography, the act of doing it dictates your experience. So if you're a nude photographer, you're going to hang out with a lot of naked people. If you're a landscape photographer, you're going to go camping a lot.
Sorry, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, it's true.
You just hang out with naked people. It's all good,
It's true. Edward Weston, hanging out with naked people. And if you're like a war photographer, you're going to be around a lot of wars. If you're a product photographer, you're going to be hunched over a table for long periods of time. And there's all these different areas, and different types of people end up in every area. And something's always fascinated me, but you're the perfect marriage of field to personality. So what's most important in your process, you feel? The pre-production, the post, or the shoot?
I think definitely the shoot.
Yeah.
Obviously, I would like to be able to build a relationship with every single bride and see kind of what it is that she's going, for with her wedding day. But, whether that happens or not, I still need to be on the wedding day. I can't show up in a bad mood. I can't show up and not have all my gear, have everything perfect. Post-production, I mean, that's great, but that can only go so far. If I do a crap job on the wedding day, it's still going to suck. So I'm going to say that when you're shooting, that's the most important for me.
Definitely. And you can't go back and reshoot. Right.
No, you can't.
He was like, can we just do that wedding one more time?
One more time. There's an insurance company who will actually, you can buy insurance if something goes wrong in your wedding day so you can have everything restaged.
Really?
Fly everyone back out, get all the hair and makeup. I know, right?
Who's going to do that?
I don't know.
That's why they sell insurance, because nobody's actually going to go through that trouble.
I'm sure that at some point, I mean, if you were spending $500,000 on the wedding, you might. Yeah. But in my mind, I'm thinking that moment's gone. The ink's already dry on that page. That's in the past.
It's true. It'd just be take two, which would be weird. But yeah, some weddings are crazy. Like my girlfriend, when I lived in New York, she shot second photographer on a wedding with a budget of $2 million.
Wow. That must have been incredible.
Yeah. It was like 7/10 of food. It was like basically like 7 weddings simultaneously.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Crazy, huh? So what do you feel is like, what equipment do you use? And also, what would you say is like the bare minimum equipment you'd use to shoot a wedding?
Okay. So bare minimum for a wedding photographer, ditch the Rebel. Like I hear people, they're like, oh, I went to Costco, I got a Rebel. Nope. Like get yourself an actual camera. And
like a 5D.
Like a 5D, even like a 5D Mark 1 would
Canon 5D.
Canon 5D Mark 1 came out like 2007, 2006. I mean, it's 10 years old and it's still above that Rebel. I don't know. I have a hard time with the Rebel.
You can probably get them for $800 on eBay. Or
you could probably get them for like $400 on eBay.
Yeah. But
lenses, you need to have something that can go a little bit wide, something that can go a little bit long. I would recommend the 24-70 2.8 and the 7200 2.8 lenses. And if you don't have them, you can rent them. We live in like this day and age where, I mean, there's a website called rentlenses.com. I mean, the excuse that you couldn't get a lens because you couldn't buy it, I don't accept that. So,
and they don't cost much to rent. You can rent it for $30 a day.
$30 a day, exactly. Yeah. So something ridiculous. I have 9 lenses. I don't know that I need 9 lenses, but I wanted them all. So
I own every lens Canon makes, but I always say like, well, you don't really need much. You need a 24-70, a Canon 5D, you're good to go. But I do own lots of equipment because it's just fun.
It is. It is so much fun. In fact, I will tell you, I realized actually that I've been a lens snob because I, only buy Canon Redline, of course. If it's not L series, like don't even look at me. But, Pictureline actually told me that there was a Sigma lens at 50 millimeter 1.4 that I resisted even looking at for a long time until one day I just had some time to kill. I walked in. I was like, hey guys, what do I need to buy? By the way, I love Pictureline. If you have money that you can spend, they will help you spend it. Like, it's awesome. But they're like, hey, we're going to make you try out the Sigma. Let me tell you, I've had it for 2 months. It is my favorite lens. I would say that I easily shoot a third of everything I do with that one lens right now.
Wow. So it's the Sigma 1.
Sigma 50 millimeter 1.4.
It's like the art series or something. Is that what it is?
I will be honest. I don't know anything about it. I think it was like $900 and I love it. I'm totally fascinated with it. It's beautiful.
No, that's cool. That's interesting.
It seems to add contrast back. I mean, I don't think that the Canon lenses are low contrast by any means, but I can tell you that it is a higher contrast and a sharper lens. Even at 1.4, it focuses fast. It can focus in relatively low light, and it is amazing. Like the fall off is beautiful. I'm a big fan of it.
That's interesting. So you own like 9 lenses, but what are your go-to like top 3 lenses? I mean, that one and a 7200 and a 24-70 2.8.
I got to tell you, like, even though I told everyone to own those 2 zoom lenses, those are my most hated lenses.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know why. There's something that's almost lazy about them. it's oh, well, you got your 24-70 on, you don't even need anything else. Whereas for me, I like shooting at 1.4. So yeah, I'm going to go from the 50 to the 35 to the 14, up to the 85, back to the 50. Now I want my 100. Now I need my macro. I don't know. It goes back and forth and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to need this one or that one. I might as well just put on the 24-70. Here we go.
No, I give up. That's that's the 24-70 is like giving up the lens choice.
Exactly. It's a beautiful, and sometimes you need that, like for if there's some kind of action going on, like especially dancing later on in the reception. I don't know if, am I going to need that 24 or am I going to need to zoom in at 70 and it's happening so fast I don't have time to change and focus to get my 1.4. So
yeah, well, with me and like I spend 95% of my time traveling with my equipment, and so really to me, I shoot with a 24-70 for probably 90% of my pictures, just because I have to carry it for 18 hours before I use it for 1 hour. So that's a logistic thing, but yeah.
I totally get the logistics of that. When I went to Ecuador, I brought 24-70, and it was really funny. I kind of had fun the first day, and then I was like, I hate carrying this around. So I ended up getting a Sony point and shoot. Like, I love it. It's got a 24 millimeter, goes down to 1.8. Boom. I'm happy.
Yeah, no, it's true. There's a lot of good, like smaller cameras, like the Olympus Pen series.
Yeah.
Modern. Those are pretty amazing. So those are surprising answers. You've surprised me on every single one of these.
Well, I could go on. I mean, I have a lot more gear I could talk about.
What do you use for post? I mean,
like post.
Like what do you edit or you have something?
I can't even tell you anything about that because I use Pixel Whipped and they do everything for me.
No.
I mean, I can get in Photoshop if I want to, but my time is better spent in talking with the brides, and honestly, a lot of what I do is marketing, which I think is really fun.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's the most important thing. I mean, if you don't do marketing, nothing happens.
Exactly.
I mean, quite literally.
Exactly.
So, I mean, to me, this is Adam Smith was a very wise man, and you should figure out what you're good at and just do it and outsource everything else you can. Because no, really. Like,
I love that you just quoted Adam Smith at me.
I'm sorry. My brother has a PhD in economics.
I'm okay with that. I actually, I consider myself to be a historian.
Okay. There you go. But yeah, no, that's a big problem I've noticed. Like photographers, they get like, in fact, this was even in my education, I kind of was led to believe that I needed to be a lab tech to be a photographer. But really, like, you don't do that. Like, as a photographer, if you're processing your own film and making your own prints, then you're kind of like doing the wrong thing.
Absolutely.
I mean, you need to be focused on getting jobs and photographing, like, and you with that camera as like the most important element of that, and you negotiate with the client. And that's where pre-production, I mean, in a lot of, I mean, you're the first wedding photographer I've ever heard who does so much pre-production. I mean, that's really great because, I mean, you're ready then for that moment. But in like fields like fashion photography, like really everything's pre-production. Like the shoot is very trivial. Like doing the casting and getting everything there is like 90% of the creative decisions have been made. And in fashion photography, there's loads of pre-production. And really, like the fashion photographer at his best is in the pre-production. Like you look at an Annie Leibovitz photograph, 90% of that's pre-production. Every decision was made really before she started shooting. Thoroughly planned out. So really, Annie Leibovitz, like a lot of people could actually physically take the picture she takes, but nobody else could do the pre-production that she does. I mean, just getting George Clooney and Julia Roberts at the same place at the same time is kind of a miracle if that happens. Yeah. And the fact she can pull that off is really her competitive advantage over every other photographer. It really isn't kind of the shoot for her. And so that's why she probably spends way more time getting George Clooney and whatever, Julia Roberts to show up than she does actually doing the shoot. So every area has its own little thing. And so once you discover what you're the best at, and clearly Pepper's really good at like interpersonal relationships and connecting with people, then you should just focus on that and run with it. Yeah. I have to admit, I say that, but I'm not quite sure what I'm better at than anybody else. I know I work hard. That's pretty much it. I don't know if that's it. Determination goes a long way. Good make up for other things.
But in the end, like, I'm the best Pepper that's ever going to be. I mean, there isn't going to be another Pepper Nix that's better at being Pepper Nix than I am. And in the end, like, there's not going to be a better Mark than, like, it's going to be better at being you than you are. So I'm going to say, like, you already kick ass at,
Yeah. Well, actually, I could say maybe this is it. I don't know. To me, like, have these moments of like complete clarity, like when I'm shooting. No, these are really pretty magical. I love them. Like, it would just, everything fits. And that's when I get by far my best pictures. So it's kind of like foggy, and then just have these moments of clarity. And I'm not sure if that happens with other people. I mean, it probably happens with all photographers. But to me, that's even why I do it, is going for those moments when, like, wow, this is it. This is what I wanted to say. This is the situation's allowing me to say it. And here we are. It's all coming together.
I actually think that does happen. My editing team had a talk with me, and they said, when this happens to you, when you have this moment of everything is perfect, I was like, yeah. She's like, yeah, stop what you're doing and move on and go do something else, because you already nailed the shot. You don't need like 50 more exactly like it. So go do something else. I'm like, okay.
No, you got to stick with it. You got to hold that moment, because that's why we're here. That's important. That's good. That's funny your editing team says that.
But they did. They said, yeah, we can tell like when you felt that groove, because all of a sudden it's like almost the exact same shot 50 different times. They're like, yeah, just move on, go get something else. Like, you got it. I'm like, all right. So for me, when I get that moment of clarity, like, I got it. Okay, now I need to go move away and get a different shot.
No, that's true. Because, I mean, there's so many things going on in a wedding. You really need to kind of get good coverage. And even say that's one of the chief complaints I've heard from brides is kind of like, what? They just took like 10,000 shots of like the ring girl, and that was it. I was like, what? No, really? They didn't photograph anything else? Like, no, they didn't photograph anything else. Just the ring bearer.
I gotta tell you, I have heard the craziest stories. I get a shot list from the bride, and it says, get a picture of the wedding cake. I'm like, really? You don't think I'd... But her sister had a wedding, and the photographer didn't get a picture of the centerpiece of the reception.
The wedding cake.
Exactly.
Yeah. No.
So as much as some of these, you get a shot list and it says, get the kiss at the end of the ceremony. You think it sounds kind of dumb, but there's a reason behind it. It's because that bride knew someone, and that photographer didn't get the kiss. So
no, that's this is a horror story. This is kind of funny. My mother's wedding, my mother and father's wedding, my uncle took the pictures, and he didn't have any film in the camera.
Oh my God, no.
Like, ever. So they have zero pictures from their wedding. Like, they have some...
Like, he didn't realize, like, when you get up to like 38 frames in your camera, like, you just,
I don't know how that happened. It's pretty shocking, actually. But, oh, shoot. I mean, but yeah, no, but they got, my mother's very good about it. And they got photographs from, all their friends and stuff. And it was kind of a hippie lo-fi wedding, I should say. So it was like... A lot of them
were back then.
Yeah, a lot of them were back then. It's the 70s. So, I mean, I don't think it was like that big of a thing. But yeah.
I got a funny story. My parents almost didn't have any wedding photos because they moved and something happened to the box. And, this is in 1976, and the pictures are gone. All the pictures, they got all the film, like all of it's gone. And a year later, one of her friend's sisters was going through, I don't know, some camera store, and there was a thing in the counter that said, do you know this person? And it was a picture of my mom and dad on their wedding day. She's like, yeah, that's my sister's friend. Or I think it was even worse. I think it was a picture of the entire wedding party, and they recognized someone in the wedding party, but they said this was turned into someone found this shoebox on the side of the road, and it had all these negatives, and they just brought it to a camera store.
That is the most random.
Isn't that like totally completely? So they got all these pictures back because somebody knew someone who had been in the wedding party, and they posted, they just had this sitting in their counter for over a year. Do you know this person?
Well, that was really good of them to do that.
Right?
Yeah, that's amazing. They could have put a display of filters up in that counter, made some more money. So who are some of your favorite photographers?
I have to be very honest with you. I don't spend a whole lot of time looking at other people's work. And I don't know, the reason for that is probably you start going through on Instagram and you're just like, oh my God, look at all these amazing pictures. I suck. And it's not a good feeling. So I just made a conscious effort to stop looking. And once a week, I will go through just a few with the intent. I'm going to find a picture that I like that I think is beautiful, and I'm going to see if I can recreate that. I'll find that one picture. Boom. I'm not going to worry about it anymore. Like, I'm not going to look at anything else. It's
That's interesting.
You know.
So like other wedding photographers, I mean, where do you
like
see
other wedding
photographers?
photographers, other fashion photographers. I don't spend a whole lot of time looking. I mean, I look at the bridal magazines, but then again, there's the whole, why is this wedding featured? Half these pictures are out of focus. This isn't good.
Oh, so you look at the bridal wedding the bridal magazines. You subscribe to all those.
Exactly. And again, like it's I can't be them. I just need to be me. I need to be who I am. So in terms of, who my favorite photographers are, I like photographers who do very unusual things with light.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I'm really trying to get very proficient at, is off-camera lighting during a wedding with all that craziness going on.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
And that's, something I hear from a lot of people. They're like, oh, I photograph in natural light. It's all natural. I'm like, yeah, no. Natural. If I bring the light, like it's a natural light. Look at that. Yay, I brought it. It looks
light
amazing.
Is natural. There's no such thing as artificial light. It's electrons.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's all the same deal. You can't distinguish it.
So
no such thing as organic light.
Don't even get me started. I read this article the other day about why film was better than digital for a wedding. And it was something about because the light was more organic and just wrapped around the bride like a warm hug. And I just want to throw up because I thought, you know what? Like, you just don't know how to work digital. Like, because you have to digitize the film anyway and add grain in it to make it look all grainy and organic. And
no, it's true. And I have to admit, like, this is something I take quite personally. It's like, because I had a student, this is when I was a professor, who I ran into them after graduation. And there was a wedding photographer around here who was really advocating only shooting with film. And she said, I took that class and I was like, so I sold my digital camera, I bought a film camera, and I had somebody ask me to shoot their senior portraits for them. And I said, fine, but I'm only going to shoot one roll of film because I couldn't afford to do anything more. And like, you can't do that anymore. Like, if you give someone 36 proofs, they're going to be, you're not doing your job. And I said, well, you really should shoot it digitally. She's like, but I can't afford a digital camera. Like, her husband's a window washer and they really need the money. And like, if she had like not listened to this photo teacher who told her to sell her digital camera because film was the more pure way to shoot weddings.
I'm pretty sure I know who that was.
Yeah, we both do. She would have a viable income source that could be very meaningful. And she had 2 kids. It's something she could have done with her kid. See, film is expensive. I remember this, like I shot a lot with film. I spent thousands of dollars in film processing, and it was very laborious. And honestly, labs didn't do a very good job. Like, people seem to think that like photo labs always got the color right. No, you'd get back 500 prints and they'd be like all like half the size. It'd be like 3.5 inches, not 4x6s, or they'd be all kind of green. It's like, it was not a good experience back then. And it cost a fortune.
It did. I think that maybe, a lot of people who are getting into shooting film don't understand what it is that we had to go through when we were learning how to do this.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. If you are Elizabeth Messina, or if you are Jose Villa, I mean, these are true masters of their craft. They understand this. They know what exactly the light is going to do and what the film is going to do and how to create what they want to create. I have never seen anything from them that is anything other than heart-wrenchingly spectacular. And having said that, there's one Elizabeth Messina, there's one Jose Villa, and there's a lot of people who aren't them.
Yeah.
And if you want to be a film shooter, be a film shooter and embrace your craft and learn how to shoot in low light situations. Do not turn in images that are out of focus because it's not artistic. It's wrong. Like, you did it wrong. I work with the wedding planner, and she was recently telling me about these film photographers she's working with, and they give the bride 400 pictures. They take 400 pictures and give the bride 400 pictures. And I'm like, yeah, I took 4,000 pictures and we edited those down to like the best of the very best, which is, probably, I don't know, 1,000. I'm not doing like a spray and pray. I'm actually like, I take that many.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't see how a bride is going to be happy with 1,000 of like the most beautiful edited images from her wedding day versus here's 400, like some are in focus, some aren't, some are dark, some aren't. To me, that seems like the quality is not the same. So I feel like there's a fallacy being presented right now to brides who, are 21, 22 years old and may not know the difference. So.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's like your pictures need to be good. That's the core thing. And if your pathway to that is with film, or digital, that's fine. But either way is not a pathway to guaranteed genius photographs. Yeah. It's like one or the other. But when you're starting out, you're going to make a ton of mistakes. And I think it's way better to make those mistakes on digital because you're not paying $15 to $20 a roll.
I can tell you this. I learned more in the first 6 months shooting digitally in 2002 than I had the previous 8 years before that shooting film, because the feedback was immediate. I've got really bad ADD. And I remember in school, they would tell us, oh, take a picture and write down what your exposure was, and take a picture and write down what your exposure was. I can't remember how to do that or what to do that, especially during a wedding.
Why you would do that.
Exactly. You get a picture back. You're like, oh, that's amazing. How to do that?
What was
I
the
don't
exposure?
know. I have no idea. And all of a sudden you take a picture in digital and you can see it. And there is that immediate feedback. I don't know. I wouldn't recommend anyone starting out to learn on film. And frankly, I wouldn't recommend, I think film has its place.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it doesn't have its place, but I think that incorporated into a wedding, I mean, you would never tell a war zone photographer, oh, shoot it in film. You'd never tell a photojournalist ever, oh, go shoot it in film. You just wouldn't do that. I feel that film is very fine art. If you want to do it for portraiture or something like that, something that's not fleeting and moving, go for it.
Well, even with me, like I shoot now with a Canon 5DS, which is a 50 megapixel camera. And I do these for my shows. I do these large 66 by 44 inch prints. And I think it's better than any film. It's better than medium format. Like you get better tonality and better resolution with the digital file. And I mean, Mary Ellen Mark, who I've mentioned before, but she wrote forward to my last book and I worked with her and I love her. She does amazing work.
How can you not love her?
Oh, she's astonishing. Like even just as a person, like I can't believe I got to work with her. But the first conversation she said to me was like, well, of course, digital photography ruined everything and film is way better. And I didn't want to like argue with Mary Ellen because she's Mary Ellen Mark. So I was like, you're 100% right, Mary Ellen. I agree with you, but once again, she was coming from a different time period. Also, she had, she'd use a Polaroid camera that costs like $200 a shot. Like every time she clicked the shutter, $200. But her portrait sessions, she charged $20,000 for, and, her print sold for tens of thousands. Like she had the infrastructure that she could cope with this.
Absolutely.
But if you're starting out, I really don't think it's a good idea.
It doesn't make sense, no.
It just doesn't make financial sense. And I say this because I was a very broke photographer, very broke, struggling to buy a roll of film. Well, that's really great, Pepper. I mean, you're a really great interviewer. I enjoyed everything you've had to say. And
well, thank you for so much.
If you had one piece of advice, party and advice to give anybody starting out in wedding photography, what would it be?
If you're starting out, shoot digitally. If you are in college right now studying photography, change your major to anything else. I don't feel photography is so much a science as it is an art. And if it's an art, I don't think you're going to learn it in the classroom. You're going to learn it by doing. So get your ass out there and be shooting every single day, whatever it is. If you want to be the bird photographer, go find some birds like every single day. If you want to be the dog photographer, go find dogs. If you want to, shoot clouds, shoot clouds. Whatever it is, just go out and go do it and go be it. But don't go to school and spend tens of thousands of dollars to learn to be a photographer, because that's not what makes you a photographer.
Stand in front of a mirror and say, I'm a photographer.
I am a professional photographer. Damn it.
There you go. And we'll end with that. Thanks a lot, Pepper.
Thank you so much, Mark.